All right, welcome back. When we had left off, we had just talked about ser and estar and how they both mean to be. So soy, eres, es, somos, soy, son for ser, and estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están for estar. So they both mean to be, but they're used differently. They're used in different situations. Okay, so for now, remember to say how you feel or where you are. You always use the verb estar. No accents on ser. Lots of accents on estar. The only reason there's not an accent on estamos is because this is where the natural stress falls, so we don't have to add a written stress mark. Okay, let's talk about some other irregular verbs that you know. You know tener. Tener means to have, and so that conjugates tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, and tienen. Tener is irregular in that it's a stem changing verb, but it also has an irregular yo form. Okay, so tener is called a yo go form, and that means that it ends in go instead of an o. Okay, and then it's also a stem changing verb because we have this spelling change in the stem. We're going to talk very, very briefly about stem changing verbs at the end of all of these notes. I don't have them on your actual notes page because we're going to get to more stem changing verbs later on in the chapter. Okay, so tener, it means to have, but we also use tener with certain phrases. So that in English we use to be, so am, is, or are in these phrases, but in Spanish you have to use tener. So in Spanish you have these things instead of being these things. So tener hambre is to be hungry. It's literally to have hunger. Okay? Tener sed is to be thirsty or to have thirst. But we don't go around being like, oh my gosh, I have so much hunger. It's not how we talk. So we translate it as I'm hungry. Okay? But in Spanish you have to use tener with it. Hambre and sed are both feminine. So if you are really hungry, you would use tener mucha hambre. Tener mucha sed, to be really thirsty, to have a lot of hunger, to have a lot of thirst. Tener calor is to be hot, and tener frío is to be cold. These are both masculine things. Tengo mucho calor, tengo mucho frío. I'm really hot, I'm really cold. We also use tener with the word años to describe how old we are. That's to be a certain age. It's really important that you get the nye on your, the tilde over your n, because años with no tilde is an anus. You can tell me how many buttholes you have, but that's information that your doctor needs more than I do. Okay? So watch your pronunciation on that. Tener años is to be an age. And then tener que with an infinitive is to have to do something. This que doesn't really have a translation. It's just a connector word to show us that it's an obligation. So like, yo tengo que practicar el español. I have to practice Spanish. Yo tengo que lavar los platos. I have to wash the dishes. I don't want to wash the dishes, but I have to wash the dishes. Okay, it's an obligation. So tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen, that is tener. Okay. It might be helpful to do some flashcards for some of these irregular verbs. The next one that we're going to talk about, I apparently forgot to add animation to. Okay, so ear. So we're going to look at the chart first. Ear kind of looks a little bit like an AR verb chart. So we've got voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, and van. Okay, so ir means to go. So I go, you formal go, he or she goes, we go, y'all go, they go. Ir is not an IR verb, so don't try to conjugate it using your IR verb endings. It's irregular every time you see it. You're never going to see ir, whether you're in Spanish 1 or Spanish 47. Ir, which is not a real class, ir is always going to be an irregular verb. Okay. Ir is used to express travel, like I go to the store, I go to the park, I go to the pool. And it's also used to express events in the future, same as it is in English. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to the restaurant. I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to go wherever. Okay. And the way that that is set up is ir, and then an infinitive for the future. And we're going to talk about that. Ir is almost always followed by the word because if you think about it, and means to. I'm going, what comes next? I'm going to. Okay? I'm going to work. Voy a trabajar. Okay, so we have that for that. Even though trabajar means to work, it's just the way the sentence structure works. Okay. Anytime we have a followed by the word el, it becomes al, because el sounds awkward. I know I mentioned it in class at one point, or in one of my classes, that anytime something sounds a little bit awkward in Spanish, we just like tweak it a little bit so that the meaning is still the same, but it sounds a little bit better. And this is it's just a contraction. Like we don't always say, there's the perfect one. We do not always say do not. We say don't. That's what this is. But in Spanish, you can't say al. It just sounds awkward. And when you're speaking at a natural pace, it will become al. Okay, so almost always followed by the word a. There's a few phrases that are exceptions, but as a general rule, it's followed by the word a. Okay, so you have some sentences down below. I want you to go ahead and translate those into Espanol. Okay, so hit pause, hit play when you're done, and check your work. All right, number 1, yo voy al parque. I am going to the park. You could put a yo at the beginning, but you don't have to, because I know from voy that my only option for a subject is yo. She is going to eat pizza tomorrow. Ella va a comer la pizza mañana. So she is going to eat pizza tomorrow. Where are you going? ¿A dónde vas? And this is one where it doesn't come, where the a doesn't come after the verb form. In Spanish, you cannot end a sentence with a preposition like to or from or of. You have to move that to the beginning of the sentence. So instead of saying, where are you going to? It's to where are you going? That's actually how we should speak in English, but we don't. Okay? But in Spanish, that's what you have to do. Number 4, we are going to speak Spanish. Vamos a hablar español. And number 5, they are going to the beach. Ellos van a la playa. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions about that. The next thing that we're going to talk about is possessives. Okay? The apostrophe does not exist in Spanish. You can't use them. And even if you're like, oh, I'll just leave the apostrophe at the off and just put the S, that also does not work. So the way that you have to set it up is like the something of someone. Like the book of Matthew. That sounds like a Bible book. The book of Thomas's book. Okay? So instead of saying like my grandparents' house, I have to say the house of my grandparents. La casa de mis abuelos. Okay, I have to set it up like this. So definite article, noun of whoever. Okay, this is how we get around the apostrophe S. It's a little bit wordy, but it is what it is. Okay, her sister's dog, el perro de su hermana, the dog of her sister. We can also use our possessive adjectives, which are like my, your, his, her, our, etc. So we're going to talk about those. Okay. So to say my, or it is me, or mis. To say your, it is to or tus. No accent mark here, because if you have that accent mark, that means you, the person. Your, his, or her, so this would be the your belonging to usted, would be su or sus. Our would be nuestro or nuestra, or nuestros or nuestras. So there's actually 4 different ways to say ours. Our. Y'all's, that would be the your belonging to vosotros. Vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, vuestras. And then your belonging to ustedes, or their is su or sus. The singular or plural determining if it's me or mis, tu or tus, nuestros or nuestro or nuestros. That is determined by the number of the item owned, not the number of owners. Okay, so for example, I can have like multiple books, but I'm still just, and even though I'm just one person, there's more than one book, so it would be mis libros. Okay, same thing if I wanted to say like our grandmother, nuestra abuela. She's still just one person, so I'm going to use the singular even though she belongs to all of us. Okay, nuestro and vuestro have to match the noun in gender as well as in number. Okay, so I'm not going to say nuestro abuela. That doesn't match. Okay, and the last one that I'm going to talk about, we might not have enough time to get gustar. Okay, is gustar. I really hate that we use gustar like right at the beginning of Spanish 1. But I mean, it's such a useful verb to talk about things that you like, but it's such a weird verb. It doesn't go along with the way that like we think of sentence structure. So we like throw at you like this really weird verb, and then we're like, ignore that for a while. We're going to do this other thing that does something completely different. Let's talk about gustar. Okay, so gustar does not actually mean to like. We translate it as to like because we don't go around talking about how pleasing things are to us. Like, oh my gosh, chocolate is so pleasing to me. You sound weird. Okay, we say, I really like chocolate. So it's conjugated based on what is pleasing, not who is pleased. Okay, so if I want to say like, I really like candies. Okay, the candies are what I'm conjugating the verb for, not me. A gustar sentence has 5 parts. Think about it like your hand. Okay? So there's it goes in the same order. This should look right to you. It's backwards to me. And then your person. So it's like to someone. Okay? And then we have our indirect object pronoun. And we're going to look at what those look like in just a moment. And this just repeats this. Even though it comes after, it just repeats it. Okay? Then we have our form of gustar. And then we have our subject. Okay, so our form of gustar, we use gusta if it is a singular noun, or if it is an infinitive verb, we use gustan only if it is a plural noun, sorry. And then we have our subject. Okay, so you go pinky to thumb, person, indirect object pronoun, gustar, subject. Okay, gustar's wonky. Okay, you're with your person, your pinky and your ring finger. They're not always necessary. It adds emphasis or clarification based on what this is, what this indirect object pronoun is. Okay, so let's look at those indirect object pronouns. Okay, so if I want to say something is pleasing to me, I can't just hold that finger up, that would be rude. It's may. Okay, if it's pleasing to you or for to you, it's te. For him, her, or you formal, it's lay, and there's a star there, and we're going to talk about that. If it's pleasing to us, we use nos. If it's pleasing to y'all, it's os. Don't put vos there. Vos is not a word. Well, vos is a word, but it's not used here. And then if it's pleasing to y'all or to them, it's lace. Okay? If your third part of your sentence is lay or lace, you have to have your with your person. Okay, because this is very unclear. Lay or lace is very unclear, so we have to add this clarification. Because if I just say, le gustan los gatos, do you know who likes cats? No, but if I say, a mi hermano le gustan los gatos, then you know, my brother likes cats. I told you he was a cat lady. Okay. Like I said, gustar is weird. There are some sentences down below. Try to translate them out. These are mostly infinitives, so this should be from chapter 1A if you want to look at your notes from last year, your vocab from last year. Hit pause, write the sentences. We'll check them super duper fast, and that'll be the end of the notes. Okay. Antonia, le gusta tocar la guitarra. To Antonia, it is pleasing to play the guitar. We like to spend time with friends. Nos gusta, to us, it's pleasing to spend time with friends. You like to ride a bicycle. Te gusta montar en bicicleta. To you, it's pleasing to ride a bicycle. I like to sing. Me gusta cantar. To me, it's pleasing to sing. Number 5, Carlos and Felipe don't like to read magazines. If you are saying something is not pleasing, you put your no right here. Okay? It's like you're doing the live long and prosper. I can't do it with this hand. It's like right there. Okay? A Carlos y a Felipe no les gustan leer revistas. To Carlos and to Felipe, it is not pleasing to read magazines. I'm not going to have time to get the rest of them. Look at the present on the video. Look at the presentation that I'm posting online and let me know if you have any questions. Okay? I am going to show you jugar as well, so that way you can just get a little look-see. Jugar is a stem-changing verb. We'll talk about this more in the future. If you have questions, please let me know. Have a great day. Adios.